Hello, everyone, and welcome to Got Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast. My name is Alexandra August. I'm your host, and with me, as ever, is my co-host, Johnny Kolazinski.
Hello, everyone.
We are so excited to be here chatting with you about HBO's A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And for reference, you can find this podcast on Instagram at Got Thrones, on TikTok at Got_Thrones, and on YouTube at Got Thrones Podcast.
That's correct. We are going to be talking about episode 5 of A Night of Seven Kingdoms, In the Name of the Mother. This was, as always happens in the penultimate episode of any Ice and Fire themed show, a doozy. A lot happened, a lot changed. The world of Westeros will never be the same.
Truly.
And excited to talk about it, so let's get into it.
Yeah. This was written by Hiram Martinez, Ty McKell, and Ira Parker, which is something that Johnny mentioned, which is pretty key. Outside of Ira Parker, neither Hiram nor Ty McKell have a tremendous amount of credits, which speaks to things. Yeah,
Ty McKell, her credits are very specifically A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and House of the Dragons. Also has the best trivia ever on her IMDb page, which is Ty McKell is a human female from the planet Earth.
That's pretty.
And this episode was phenomenal. I want to talk about. Let's do our recap, and then I can talk about why I loved it from a writing perspective.
Yes, please.
The amount of risks that they've taken from a creative standpoint, even just in saying, yes, we're going to do this in 6 episodes, less than an hour each, just that alone, I think is both commendable and might be indicative of the fact that they are able to break the rules because they aren't so stuck to them.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure to watch and how refreshing it is, for sure, in many ways. Speaking of which, let's give it a little recap and get into what was so refreshing about it. So to jump off, the battle starts. We open the episode and we get a little chat with Baylor. Daddy gives us a talk, and then we get going.
Don't die.
Don't die. Which, not the first time I've heard that advice. Good advice.
Stay sexy. Don't get murdered.
Yep. Dunk gets his ass kicked, like, roundly. And then pretty quickly we go to a flashback and we get to Flea Bottom, where he and his friend Rafe are scavenging to make money in King's Landing.
Yeah, his special friend. They are basically pulling a Thénardier from Les Miserables and robbing corpses. One of them happens to not be a corpse, and it is viscerally uncomfortable because Dunk wants to kill him, put him out of his misery. Rafe says, or we can get the ransom. And so they try to pull the guy out from under a horse. I winced every time.
First of all, to be fair, they did try to pull the horse off the man, which is, I think, as first moves go. It's so, we'll talk about that when we get to it. But, oh my God, this poor guy.
And then, kind of to go through it quickly, they go back to King's Landing, sell their stuff. They want to go to Bravos, but they can't afford it because the price went up because they've got that variable pricing thing that happens everywhere now because they were flying Southwest. And they can't even take a free bag.
They weren't counting on this. They weren't counting on the seat assignments. They need an exit row.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, he's already tall. And he can't fly without a guardian because he's dumb. So they aren't able to do that. They've got a bully that shows up who wants to take their money. Long story short, they get in another scrap later that we'll talk about. I found it interesting that this guy's name was Alistair and how much he was like Alistair Thorne in just being an absolute prick.
Just a real piece of work. You're like one of those guys you are not sorry to see that he doesn't have a hand. You're like, you probably deserve that.
I still love the fact that I completely missed that in the first watch through because I was taking notes about that scene.
second screening, god damn it. But yeah, like Dunk and Rafe unfortunately does not make it out of King's Landing. The two thieves that take her money also kill her, and then they attempt to kill Dunk, but Sir Arlen from a bar stool sees injustice
Yeah.
happening, bulls throws open the bar doors, pukes, tells them to get off. Dunk saves the day, and so not necessarily in that order. And then Dunk follows him out of King's Landing because
Yeah.
Arlen is kind of the only safe place that he's ever known. And then with that,
Mm-hmm.
we get back to the battle. Dunk continues to get his ass kicked
Mm-hmm.
roundly. Like it's everybody. Just Dunk is tall. He's easy to spot, so they just keep hitting him. Um, but eventually, it all works out for Dunk. Kind of, Arian yields. Dunk doesn't die. Only Beesbury dies, which is a bummer for Beesbury. But also,
Yeah.
actually, not only Beesbury dies. It's a bad day for B guys. Like
Yeah.
Taylor and Beesbury do not survive the day, which has some pretty huge consequences as
Mm-hmm.
we end the episode.
Yeah.
Per usual,
Per
Game of Thrones franchise episode, the penultimate episode is a big deal.
yeah, per usual. Yeah, and I was both not at all surprised with where this ended because this is the one thing timing wise I've gotten right so far this
Yep,
season as far as
yep,
predicting things.
yep.
But also, I'm really interested in where next episode goes because it's a lot of denouement. It's a lot of setting the stage for the next novellas and Game of Thrones. So I'm excited for it because I think they're going to do it well.
Yeah, that's something that I next episode is interesting because I'm excited that we are getting yet more of Lionel Baratheon, and he seems to also, in terms of his bag of tricks, have pep talks in him. And he looks
Yay!
like he's giving he's like, listen, don't give this guy too much credit because Lionel is our chaotic voice of reason. And also I am now very, very excited for the scene that will come. Oh, sorry, spoilers. I'm very excited to see Makar and Dunk have their conversation because I think
Yes.
that they have. Um, I came into this series and reread of this book really being annoyed with Makar because I had not done my Blackfire Rebellion homework, though I'm not sure that that necessarily would have made my opinion any greater. He still seems like kind of a pain, but I think we saw this week, especially in the melee, and have now seen just a little bit, peppered throughout the season. He is perhaps not the best father, but he definitely is a father, and it is important
Mm-hmm.
to him. That job is important to him. His sons are important to him because they are his family, which are, very simple things that we apply to a lot of the population of Westeros, but not always to Targaryens. Some of them are crazy. So I'm really excited to see what Sam Spruill does with what is an incredibly meaningful conversation for the realm as well. Like
Yeah.
this choice does later on, just so you know, I think we all understand that Egg becomes a king, and it's a lot of what
Wait,
happens
what?
between. Oh, sorry about that.
Dang it.
He's not the only king. There's other ones that we don't know
What?
about. It's like Egg on number 5.
By
Okay.
the way, that is my favorite Lou Bega song.
Johnny Kolazinski, everyone. He's here all morning.
Jenny of Old Stones on my mind.
Oh my gosh. Oh God, what a good this before we get into chatting about our introduced characters and getting into some of our topics, I did want to point out something that I thought I had when talking to another friend about this, which was that this entire series has reminded me of every episode that Brian Cogman has ever written for the show. And that's because it is a nuanced adaptation. It understands that
Mm-hmm.
television and books are different mediums, and whatever, I'm not saying that David and Dan could not have executed that. I think they did not consistently. I think you could tell when Brian Cogman had written an episode. I think that's the episode that we get before the long night. It just feels like the books. It's not. You're not just getting the story down on paper and making it happen. It really felt like it
Yeah.
was taken from book material and loved and molded to become take the soul of the book to put it on the television screen, and not to like over romanticize it, but It's not easy to do. I don't want to say, I don't want to, everybody loves to shit on David and Dan for the end of Game of Thrones. It's not easy to work on the biggest show in the world. It is not easy to have a gajillion stakeholders from literally the board of Warner Brothers Discovery paying attention to you. And so
Yeah.
I think that Ira Parker and his tiny little team like managed to come in at the best time to maybe be left alone a little bit, or to have earned them, to have like at least had two other shows go before them and see like what happens when you don't necessarily lead with when you don't lead with creative, and when you don't let creative kind of um do what it needs to do before meeting all of your other priorities. I don't know if I'm being as articulate as I can
Yeah.
about that. They weren't micromanaged so much, maybe.
Deep Space Nine versus Voyager.
Oh, excellent comp. Excellent comp. Thank you for being far
Because
more that.
Star Trek Voyager was the flagship show literally for UPN. Like they launched the network with it. And at the same time, Deep Space Nine was still being syndicated and didn't get the attention. So they were able to take risks like doing serialized television.
Yep.
So let's hear it for Baby Brother shows helmed by guys named Ira.
Hell yeah. Look at that. Look at that. We actually in season, this is episode 5, interestingly enough, and we met like kind of like 5 new characters, which flashback. But
Mm-hmm.
I kind of count Beesbury because it's the only time he's got a line, this poor guy.
Yeah,
I
that's the
think
only
that
time he spoke.
mustache.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got everybody in Flea Bottom, and we got Rafe, who's played by Chloe
Mm-hmm.
Lee. If you were one of the 12 people who watched Dune Prophecy, you saw her there. She's also on Foundation, um, a young Brit, and then also we got young Dunk, and we got
Mm-hmm.
Arlen. Kind of, I say sort of. It's not because we didn't get introduced to Arlen, but this really felt like we got to know sort of the mechanics of what made him work when he met Dunk, and why they eventually formed their relationship, which was pretty beautiful.
I would say it's also the only time that we saw Dunk. I'm sorry, that we saw Arlen not through Dunk's
Flashback.
nostalgic perspective.
Yeah, not
Like
this
this,
whole
this
thing.
was real Dunk. Or, dang it, this is real Arlen, and not the idealized version that we. Even when we saw him doing the opposite of what Dunk says, we were still seeing it as counterpoint to the paragon that lived in Dunk's head.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I said Flea Bottom as kind of a new character just because I feel like this is the first time we really got a sense of how shitty it is to live in Flea Bottom. You don't
Yeah,
have like it's not only it looks really dirty, which we all knew,
yeah,
but very dog eat dog down there.
yes. One of the many things I like this about this episode was the coloration of it. That everything was so gray and dreary. Whereas in Game of Thrones, even when we were in Flea Bottom, they were still filming in golden hour. It was romanticized. It was, oh yeah, these are filthy people in a
They love each
pretty
other.
terracotta. Yeah,
Yeah.
and not this is Sir Arlen who found someplace to drink literally next to a pig farm.
A star, yeah. Just the fact that like you could behead somebody and in like a street fight, like you could just lop that head clean off, which is what Arlen does to the not the easy one.
Yeah,
The one with the really
Lenny.
skinny neck. Yeah, yeah. That head, like in like the first 2 minutes of that fight, that head hits the ground and the pigs are snuffling at it and they just kind of nosh on it for the rest of that fight. They keep cutting back to those pigs.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing that from Doug's perspective, and he kind of goes back and forth to like see Rafe and then see Arlen, and they really nailed down why Arlen is a hero to Dunk. And like not only just knowing that because of what happens, that Arlen literally saves him, but watching Dunk watch Arlen in Flea Bottom, having the context of what it's like to grow up there and just be able to be kind of killed for no reason all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And yeah, that was I thought very effective. I couldn't quite
Mm-hmm.
smell it, but I was like, I don't want to live, I don't want to go to there. Feel
Yeah,
like leave.
that kind of ties into the first segment that we wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
which is the who smashed and who got unhorsed. Because Alex, I think you would say as far as who got unhorsed.
Yeah, if we're gonna. Oh, by the way, folks, we're playing with this. We continue to play with format as we slide back into this, and so we think we're gonna start with kind of like who had a good episode, who had a bad episode, closer to the top, and then we'll sort of do our general discussion, and then we'll end with more formalized segments. So just so you know that we
Hmm.
haven't gone completely off the rails as we build them, as the train comes down them.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so who smashed, who was unhorsed, starting it a little earlier. And yeah, to be honest, I think the citizens of Flea Bottom were unhorsed in general.
Hmm.
There's no, like, they defunded their police. There's no, I didn't see a City Watch person there. And like, let's be honest, the City Watch is not there to defend the Flea Bottom residents. They are there to keep the Flea Bottom residents from bothering the wealthy residents.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
All gold cloaks are bastards.
Yeah, yeah, AGAB. Wait, would it be ACLAB? ACLAB?
Egg a cab? Egg a cab? Egg
We're,
cab.
yeah, guys, I could feel free to shoot us with some recommendations for, anything we can call the City Watch. I don't know. It just, Flea Bottom seems like a shitty place to live. And it also, and like, kudos to Ira Parker and team for taking quite literally one scene and what looked like one set, hello producers, and creating a world that I never want to visit again.
Yeah.
And just the transition, specifically when Dunk starts following Sir Arlen out of the city, and you have his first kind of like a scene where he's in nature, which is where we're used to seeing him at this point. That is so refreshing. Like, I wanted to go
Yeah.
outside. I wanted to like
Hmm.
lie down in the grass and be like, oh my God, I gotta touch grass.
And who would you say smashed?
When I say smash, honestly, and this is ironic considering his name, I would say egg smashed. Um,
Smashed egg.
yeah, yeah, and I say that because I was caught. I did a little bit of a rewatch this morning, and I watched Egg watching Arion and Dunk. This is sort of after the flashback when we really get into that extended sequence of Dunk and Arion fighting it out. And poor Egg, like he is, nobody knows the stakes are the highest kind of for Egg. Also, I think the beautiful thing about this show, and maybe one of the subtextual aspects that people are responding to, is the fact are the similarities between Dunk and Egg. And we see
Hmm.
Dunk in this flashback where he has no protection. The only friend he has dies in front of him. And he, in an effort to stay alive, follows a complete stranger out of the only city he's ever known and the only home he's ever known because he is that scared. He is that in need of a caretaker and of help and of shelter. And he's a kid, like he's so young. And it really broke my heart to, like, in a good way, it broke my heart to have then flash forward to the melee and see Egg watching terrified as Arion consistently has the upper hand. And as people just keep beaning Dunk because he's tall and he's easy to catch from a horse. And I've played laser tag
And
before.
if he
And
dies, it's game
it's
over.
over. Yeah. And like I've played laser tag before and I've played against younger kids. And you always tell yourself you're going to leave the really little kids alone, but you get in there and the fog of war, man, like so yeah. And so watching Egg watch that and see Egg see effectively his abuser, like I don't want to throw 21st century therapy speak onto this fantasy TV series, but there's a lot of parallels to be drawn with just people in abusive situations trying to find ways to protect themselves and to stay safe and to survive. And Egg ran away from home, the home that he knows more or less, and found somebody that would protect him and made him feel safe. And
Hmm.
he is watching that person be destroyed, be potentially killed by the abuser that he's trying to escape. And it was just like so I just my heart ached for that little kid. And I'm impressed. I'm so impressed with how this show managed to land that without it feeling too saccharine and like, look at the poor little kid. Like it's yeah, so I think so the fact that Dunk gets Arion to yield and does not die, and Egg does not have to go back to a house where his abuser is victorious and his father, isn't capable of seeing what he needs to see in order to protect Egg. And Darren is Darren. I'm just so glad that poor Egg that Egg is able to perhaps rest a little easier between now and the next episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, as far as Smash goes, that doublet, that black and red doublet that Egg was wearing, is just
Fashion,
so freaking cool.
gorgeous fit. We will be having some kind of fashion segment, whether this happens on our socials or here, but we have things to discuss, especially next week. Next week there's a cap.
Mm-hmm.
So John, okay, so like who was yours?
As far as who smashed, and this is kind of a surprise for me when I was thinking about it, but it's Arlen. I mean,
Do tell.
yes, he puked at the beginning of his fight. Yes, he rolled over onto his own sword and stabbed himself, or his dagger, and stabbed himself in
He
in the
just
belly.
shouldn't.
I, I laughed so
He
hard
got a
that second time
squire.
I saw that. But he got a squire, and he did what a true knight should do, which is defending the innocent.
I
Like he, and that was his blackout drunk instinct. Like, good for you, Arlen. Were you a good guy? Probably not. Were you the hero that Flea Bottom's needed at that point in time? Yeah. And he is tangentially responsible for the saving of the realm.
I think he would take credit for that, and I would give it to him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if he could choose between credit for that and 10 coppers, he'd take the coppers, but yes.
I don't know if he learned becomes. I feel like Arlen wants to ride that train to everybody phlebotomist, every pub in the realm. He's gonna be like, I am a grandfather.
Yeah.
No.
And then as far as who was unhorsed, and again, a little bit of a surprise, it's Makar. And for similar reasons. He won his well, he didn't win. He lived. His kids lived, but he killed the guy who was going to become probably the best king that the Seven Kingdoms ever had. Yeah, and needed. And put himself in line for the throne. He wasn't a bad king. He wasn't a great king, but like I don't think it's what he wanted.
Yeah, it's. I think you're right. I think Makar, I think, wants things to work. He wants things to be harmonious. That I was really moved by the way on the pitch that he screams, "My boy!" Like when it looks like Dunk
Mm-hmm.
can kill Arion, and they hold him back, and it was very moving because it really puts the cherry on top of this character portrait that we've gotten, who is somebody who is pretty deeply unhappy this entire time. That's why I still get annoyed because I'm like, you're wealthy and you have everything. Stop being unhappy. But from a character perspective, it makes a tremendous amount of sense, especially
Mm-hmm.
considering we didn't dive too deeply into this because we're not that heavy book readers. But the Blackfire Rebellion, for all intents and purposes, was a time for, like, to not go into too much detail, it was a rebellion, and in that rebellion, Baylor and Makar had a reputation of, I believe, the hammer and the anvil, and I forget who's who, but essentially they were extremely adept at working together in martial situations, and that relationship grew to clearly where these guys were pretty good partners, but it also seems like what is available to Baylor in kind of a measured approach and this sort of like a cerebral, non-emotional interpretation of events and ability to act with that and to be reserved. Maker doesn't seem to have that. Doesn't have that
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence. Doesn't have that EQ, but does seem to like feel love greatly, for better or for worse. So it's, I think that the tragedy of Baylor dying and how he dies really hits Makar kind of in a bullseye, probably the hardest out of anybody. Next, which again makes
Mm-hmm.
me more excited for the scene between him and Dunk because they kind of both share that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think Makar knows exactly how above and beyond losing a brother, how things how poorly things went. and the gravity of everything. I'm very interested to see what interactions we see between him and Arion next episode.
Yeah, because we definitely got a little clip of a scene between Egg and Arion that is not in the books for obvious
Mm-hmm.
reasons. Dunk isn't there. That looks like Egg is willing to fight for himself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say too much more just in case people are watching. I don't know. Well, we've been pretty spoiler heavy here. So yeah, anyway, Egg takes a
Yeah.
knife. Egg is seated in a doorway in the doorway to his brother's bedroom with a knife. So, and Arion looks pretty disabled. So I'm excited for Egg to step into his power and we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah.
I think we wanted to give an honorable mention to Ira Parker and the writers in terms of who had a great episode. I think we've kind of
Yeah.
covered that. So I think we could um head into our sort of like the big a couple of discussion topics that we wanted to hit on after taking some time to rewatch and think on a little bit. And we spoke about it a little bit with the Blackfire Rebellion, but I wanted to chat about Baylor's heritage and
Mm-hmm.
why he presents as this very measured, I don't know, a good ruler and
Yeah.
adult, which is a high bar these days.
Especially for a Targaryen.
Yeah. And so, like, the big difference is that you'll notice is he's not colored like the rest of the Targaryens. He doesn't have that white hair. He looks kind of like Roose Bolton, but thank God he isn't. That's because Baelor's mother was Dornish, and that's also because the Targaryens at the time, realizing that like the dragons are not in play anymore. Another way the Targaryens have decided to shore up their powers by intermarriage, and Baelor is, I think, one of the biggest and most visible products of that being a success. And when Lionel mentions kind of before the melee, like, oh, mother loved you best, didn't she? That is sort of meant to share that Baylor's mother, who is from Dorne, he would have taken a lot of her influence. And that is both
Mm-hmm.
welcome to some and not welcome to some, as we've seen with Arian and his sort of like blood prince of the blood, whatever the MAGA equivalent is in Westeros. But yeah, so yeah, that's why it is such a big loss, is that Baylor seemed like
Yeah.
kind of a diamond in the rough.
Yeah. And when you brought this up to me before the show, I was thinking that it meant that he had different parentage or a different mother than Makar, and that's not the case. He just kind of like what they say about the Baratheons, where the seed is strong. He just he got mom's side.
The egg is strong.
The egg is strong.
The egg had its favorites. Maker
Yeah.
was not one of them. And then
Yeah.
something else that we mentioned too just now in the prep for the melee, Baylor comes in and is giving obvious. I love how like they don't even like. There's not even a transition to like, oh yes, Baylor is now leading this pack. No, like it just like the
Yeah.
next clip is like Baylor in the middle of the team being like, I am the team leader, obviously, and he gives
It'd
them.
be like if LeBron showed up to your pickup game.
Yeah, you're not like LeBron. LeBron is the leader, and you're excited
Yeah.
about that. And it is like, but yeah, it is quite literally because Baylor is a pretty masterful military commander. It is like LeBron showing up. I mean, I think another basketball player, Stephen Curry, that guy, maybe that's Lionel. Steph Curry,
Evros.
Stavro. Oh, somebody fan cast with basketball players for this pickup game because I don't know enough about it, and
Please
I'm
do.
going to make people angry. But please feel free to reach out to us. But yeah, Baylor gives a speech more or less and basically tells people to don't die. They're trying to kill you,
Literally.
so like don't do your best. And Lionel, what I love here is this relationship between Lionel and authority. Lionel does not feel like somebody who is super excited to have LeBron on his team. I
Yeah.
mean, he is, but also he's not here. He's immediately lets Baylor know that he is maybe perhaps not the most deferent in his heart.
Yeah.
He is deferent by the letter of the law. He's not gonna. But he also straight up asks Baylor if his mommy liked him best, and Baylor does what I would expect Baylor to do, which is simply not engage. And Lionel, I just love the picture of that relationship between Lionel and authority.
I think that there's a fleeting thought when Baylor says "Don't die." Lionel's first instinct was, "Don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Yeah, if it's
I'm
a
gonna
good day
die
to
to
die.
spite you now."
Yeah, Yeah, you're just trying to get it. You just don't want me to have glory. Bored.
Yeah.
Boring.
Honestly, that is probably one of the reasons that it, that he is petulant, is that he is no longer going to be the star of this fight.
That is a very good point. And he also is like, well, now it's boring because now like the Kingsguard are gonna go for you and you can't and they can't
Yeah.
touch you. And like it's now he's like, well, no, it's not a real now it's not a proper scrap. Okay, now I'm starting to think that Thoros of Myr and Lionel Baratheon would have been the best of friends. And
Oh yeah.
like, oh man, Dream Blood. I was telling the Dream Blood rotation, Thoros of Myr, Lionel Baratheon, and just for shits and giggles, Baelor Targaryen. Somehow you got him to
Baylor
the table.
Targaryen. I would also take Robin Riesling.
Ooh, that's a good one. That should have been. What is Robin? I bet it's like weed with some
I was gonna
crank
say,
on top.
I was gonna say either that or he and Thoros brought the mushrooms.
Or yeah, yeah, and then like Beesbury's straight edge, maybe, or like just
I,
quietly microdosing ecstasy.
Beesbury's antidepressants mean that nothing's really gonna hit him. Spoken from experience here.
Something that was interesting to me here is I was boning up a little bit on just the surrounding context that George has given us is that Lionel and Lionel actually leads one of the first small rebellions against the Targaryen
Mm-hmm.
throne, which is funny because he doesn't do it when Maekar is king. He does it when Egg is king.
Yeah.
So, and that is when Sir Duncan the Tall is in Egg's service and would have also met Lionel on the battlefield. And all of this happens because Egg's son does not marry Lionel's daughter, and Lionel gets very upset. So he stages an entire rebellion because he is so extra and it's delightful. I'll let you guys look that up on the wiki. I don't know. That's pretty far off in the future. So if we see that, I'll be happy to see Danelings again, but I don't think his hair is going to be the same color. And but yeah, that was I thought that was a really fun sort of like a really fun way for them to meet again, which is like Lionel, now Lionel is really, really now he's the life of the party. Now he's a great time. Chaos is a ladder, but it's also kind of annoying. And it gets
Yeah.
old after a while, just like people do. So I am having fun imagining old Lionel who's still trying to party on a
Mm-hmm.
battle because I'm going to defend my daughter's honor, which is great. But I also wonder if his daughter was like, Dad, can you not? Can you not? But that's background on Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
Or also the prep for the. Did you see anything else? I don't. What did you see during the prep for the melee? Was there anything else that you saw that was just like kind of that added to the nuance of that?
It was just a small thing, but I loved, and I always wonder what's scripted and what's not, like what came out of rehearsal or shooting. But the Dunk saying "I'm gonna survive" by "You better be here when I get back, or I'll send my dogs back after you," and then Eggs, woof, like that was again such a they did such a little kid thing without making it precocious and Simon Birch, and like such a tiny moment. And I like, if I had to boil down this entire series so far into 8 seconds, it would be that.
Oh. Night of the Seven Rodeos. Yeah, I the relationship between Dunk and Egg arguably is the most important one for this show to set up. And
Hmm.
I am delighted that they've done
I
it so
wouldn't say
well.
arguably,
Well,
inarguably.
I think there's more than one important relationship to set up. But you're right.
Hmm.
You're right. And then that brings us to something that the kind of the biggest part of the episode, you could argue, which is the Flea Bottom flashback overall, which is nothing that appears in the books. This is an
Yeah.
origin story that sounds like it was created either with Ira Parker and George together, considering how closely they worked on the show, or something that yeah, I I'm sure it's something that they worked on together. But something that I wanted to focus on a little bit was just sort of like this. I think the soul of this show is how to build trust you don't have when you don't have any, and when there's no, or when you're in a time when social contracts don't really exist in the same way, and people are much more dangerous to people. Strangers are much more dangerous to people. Family members are much more, people are much more dangerous to each other
Mhm.
comparatively than they are now, which, I mean, though one could argue that that is not, that it's the same. And I think just the fact that Dunk and Rafe are connected because they take care of each other. And that means they do not hurt each other, and they stop each other from being alone, which is vulnerability to it. So they take care of each other just by being in the same space. And it's not
Mhm.
necessarily like so active where, Rafe is like making sure Dunk is comfortable and like blah, blah, blah. It's just them being together, and it's such simplicity. And when Rafe dies and Dunk witnesses that, and it's just like all of this can be taken away, and he's alone again, and he doesn't have a mother. And like, what do you do? Like, I love how
Mhm.
the show doesn't really takes as realistic a look as possible on what you are left with when you are left with nothing, and what is the step you take. Like, all he can do is follow Arlen, or he stays in
Mhm.
Flea Bottom alone, and the only thing he has seen happen in Flea Bottom when you are with
Is death.
somebody is death, is people die, and it's not a, and like everything feels so far away, I would think, or any way out. And like, he doesn't have Rafe's vision. I think he knows that
Mhm.
he wanted to stay in Flea Bottom. He was scared to leave. And I love that, we don't see that kind of defiance. He's just a kid who really, I feel like he's not a kid who's a hero of a childhood movie. Like, he's not going to go on an adventure and like have a coming of age. I think he desperately wants a parent. And
Yeah.
watching him follow Arlen, and also like to be like watching Arlen kind of, I don't know. He was doing familiar behavior to me. Like, I have had no structure and been like, well, I might as well drink a bottle of wine today because what there would be no consequences for that, until there are.
Mhm.
Until you are a
Until
man who's,
you roll over on your knife.
yeah, quite literally. Like, all of that seemed so like, it really, all of that felt so so true, which is kind of the, it all feels so authentic. And so the idea that Dunk would follow Arlen for safety, and then Egg kind of does the same thing to Dunk. And Egg is
Mhm.
unsafe. Egg is alone. Egg is not protected in the way that, in the most important way, he's not protected. He is not
Yeah.
protected safely at home in his bed. And he
Right.
finds Dunk. And just the way that you see this sort of chain reaction of Dunk finding Rafe, and then Dunk finding Arlen, and then and then Egg finding Dunk, and then Dunk and Egg protecting
Mhm.
each other. And how, even though Dunk gets angry at Egg, so angry, Dunk understands that Egg is a small child. And that's how I love that they gave us this flashback, because now we really, really see exactly like why Dunk and Egg need each other so much. Oh,
Mhm.
that's it. I really liked it. Good flashback.
Yeah.
Sorry to that guy on the horse though. Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean I
horrible.
feel for him just as a guy with a ginger beard and like
The Gingers weren't having a good day.
no, it was a bad day for my people. Also the mustachioed, like just across the board.
And Beesbury had such promise. Did you want to chat about the melee? Was there anything in the melee?
As far as the melee itself goes, it someone, if they haven't already, is going to put together an amazingly hilarious mega cut of Dunk just getting his bell rung time after time. It was like
Do you want to fight in armor,
it
Johnny? Like, did this episode make you want to melee?
not in the slightest. I don't want to. I don't want to joust. I don't want to fight in armor. I don't even like wearing motorcycle helmets, and those don't constrict your vision. Like
Dude, Dunk was like
Hard
down to
pass.
one eye in the first 30 seconds. Like Ariane
Again,
saw him
my
and was
people.
just boosh. Yeah, I know.
Like, yeah. I think that Arion thought that this was going to be 7 nights and 7 seconds of combat,
Yeah.
and it came pretty close.
I'm hoping that I'm hoping we get a little something of like maybe Lionel or Raymond, some kind of collective flashback where Raymond's like, then this happened and it's a thing, and then Steely Pate's then this happened and then it's a thing. Then Lionel's like, and then this fucking happened, and then we get to see Sir Stavron eat shit because I feel a little robbed.
That
We did not see Sir Stavron get his ass kicked by a combination of Raymond and Lionel because I don't think Raymond could have done it on his own. I think he needed some help from Lionel.
yeah, yeah. Maybe we will. Or hear me out. Bonus content can still be a thing. DVD extras.
Oh man, guys,
HBO,
get
call
back
me.
on physical media. Get back on
Mm-hmm.
physical media, y'all. Yeah. So I think like I'm trying to think of we've covered a lot of the melee. The big thing for me was watching Egg watch Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great that Arian loses. I liked the suspense that they kind of built into those moments when Egg thinks he's gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And when Arian finally yields. And I thought I like so as much as I'm whiny a little bit about the, not getting certain segments, not getting to see some stuff that I was hoping for. I think it's a very strong capital C choice to only show it really from Dunk's perspective. I think of the parts of
Yeah.
the book that would have been important to show from Dunk's perspective, this has the most narrative weight to only feel like you're inside Dunk's armor, which they did such a good job of like this is very Battle of the
Mm-hmm.
Bastards in the sense of like you can kind of feel the texture of what's happening, and like fighting in armor is fucking miserable, fighting in the mud in armor is fucking miserable. We would have known it's been raining for a couple of days at this point, so like the pitch is really mucky and gross, and you see the mud like go into his helmet. You see it's hard to breathe, you see he can't see anything, people just keep beating him. um well executed fight from a producerial perspective, because these were not a lot of wide shots with a lot of people. It's just people beating
Yeah.
Dunk, which again, excellent job. No, no,
With a different tone, it could have been It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, featuring Charlie as Dunk.
thank you, internet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, should we go on a segment?
Let's go for it.
All right. First up is most valuable parenting. Johnny, did you want to start?
Yeah, I can go ahead and get started with this one. And I'm going to go with, and maybe it's problematic a little bit, but I'm going to say Rafe in
For parenting
in the
Dunk?
sense for parenting Dunk, not in the like specifically being a mother or or an authoritarian or taking on a maternal parenting role, but in the sense of being that one to go to what you said earlier, that one reliable point for Dunk, and vice versa. That one reliable he was that one reliable cornerstone for her, and I think that they were more, and partly because they were young, but they were more familial than like a romantic partnership.
Yeah, that was something that's a good observation. I at first was a little like, he's got to grow. Okay, she's gonna die. But I liked that again, like I don't mind something that isn't, you can find nuance and newness in execution. And the way they executed this relationship, you're right, she wasn't a mother. They were too young to be in love. And I think their bond really just showed you like like that they were abandoned children, and their bond
Mm-hmm.
shows you what they needed, which was people to protect them. And when they found, and like they're also, and it shows you that Dunk was not the kind of person to turn to crime to save
Mm-hmm.
himself, like to protect himself. Like they're not like she's a sophisticated thief, he is not. And that's
Yeah.
because he is also just like scared, and he understands that like the only thing that keeps him from being killed is the fact that he doesn't fuck with other people, and she's comfortable
Mm-hmm.
fucking with other people, and it gets her killed, and then he's left unprotected. And just the mechanics of that, and the fact that they didn't over romanticize it, the fact, like, I thought again, every single actor has done just everything they possibly could have with every spare second they're on
Mm-hmm.
screen. This was such a mean, like, this could have been really cloying. I thought, I was like, this, because again, like, it was kind of predictable that this meaningful relationship would have to end. But it also felt like just kind of a subversion of the sort of myths, the sort of premises of a lot of fairy tales, which is that you usually have an orphaned child or somebody, a child who gets out on their own and either doesn't have parents or has a disabled parent or has a mean parent, because you have to functionally get them away from the home in a believable way and get them out on their own to have
Mm-hmm.
this adventure. And I kind of like how this episode subverts that by being like, in all reality, that would be horrible. If like the kid is not going to have a great adventure and people aren't just going to help him, and it's not just going to be this like fun, which again, like I'm not going to tell this story to a 6-year-old. So, but I just liked how in like this is Dunk's fairy tale. Out of all the
Yeah.
violence, he finds someone who will protect him, and then that is the happy ending, and that is the happy ending. And so it kind of this, I like how it played with those building blocks a little bit and told us like, okay, this is not the happy end. Like, kids alone aren't safe here, but
Mm-hmm.
when people who care, like how you do make yourself safe though is finding people who are good to each other and building relationships based on I don't, I know I'm getting all woo woo, you get it, it's
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Yeah. What about for you?
I would say Dunk to Arlen.
Okay.
I, yeah,
Ah.
I think Dunk, just his presence by giving Arlen a place for his energy to go that launches in kind of a healthy feedback loop. Arlen clearly is a man of passions. I think like he seems like he might be haunted, but he also seemed like a kind of guy who, I don't know, he didn't seem as haunted as Darren. He doesn't seem as
Mm-mm.
haunted. He doesn't seem as restless as Lionel. He seems like his life has. I mean, he's lived until an old age in Westeros. I mean, he's not wealthy. Like
Yeah.
again, Arlen is a magician.
Yeah. With all of his teeth.
Yeah, origin story. What's your product? And also, Arlen seems very well traveled. I made a little TikTok, or I somebody pointed this out on TikTok, that he's speaking Dothraki, and I didn't see that subtitle. So when he's
Oh, when he
singing and
was.
doing that song, it's
Ah.
Dothraki. And somebody was like, "Well, I don't know that he's fluent if it's just a song or something." Because I was like, "Well, oh my god, like show me this origin story. Like, when did you go to Essos? When did you meet? Did you go to Vast Dothraki? Did they like your penis? Like, what happened?" And because he sings that song for a long time. Like, it's not a short
Yeah.
song. You come on, they're horse lords, literal horse
Yeah.
lords. He found his people. Why is he back in Westlake? What happened? What
Mm-hmm.
happened?
Why are you doing the
Because
reverse Mormont here?
he went and came back. Yeah. Did they kick you out? Did he like, was he a call for like 5 minutes? And then they're like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. And he was like, sorry, just kidding. Anyway, he's Arlen. Yeah, like, sorry,
Yeah.
but Arlen feels like a guy with a lot who has had a wonderful life, but in the ways that many people do, even as they get older, they need help.
Yeah.
And just
I, I,
he and Dunk
I,
doing that, and I think
I,
Dunk not knowing it, but just Dunk's presence in his life is good parenting.
I do think that if we were going to get a Sir Arlen prequel series, it would be the first straight comedy set in Westeros.
Give me the web series.
It,
I want like Arlen's
yeah,
lifestyle series.
it would be a dark comedy. Like he'd be played by David Cross, but
Good Guy
or Larry
Ritchie,
David, but yeah,
but with a sword, and he's good with it.
but
Like
with a sword.
that's another thing that I Arlen. Another thing that makes Arlen's history rich to me. Swords are important. Good swords are important. They're a sign of like wealth and respect. Either you earned it or you inherited it or
Mm-hmm.
something. And so maybe he inherited it. Maybe he is, the last of a, once big house that isn't anymore. I haven't done the Westerosi research, but he's good with it. And that sword is sharp. It has to be a very good
Mm-hmm.
sword to take the head off of someone as quickly and be swung
Yes.
by someone pretty strong to take the head off of someone like that. So that was something I hadn't picked up on the first. And Dunk also watches him kind of working out and doing his calisthenics where Arlen is swinging the sword really hard and like again couldn't tell you about like long sword play and what's good and what's not, but the fact that he's not a weak man. He stays alive for what looks like at least another 5 to 7, maybe 10 years. I'm not quite sure ages, and I forget what they said in the books, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like I was surprised. Arlen looks pretty healthy at the beginning of this, um,
Mm-hmm.
outside of the
For
drinking. Yeah,
yeah,
for the context of it.
yeah, we can't see his liver, so Arlen looks pretty healthy.
But yeah, and he looks pretty. Yeah, I forgot how we got onto that subject. I'm sorry.
I brought up his teeth.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But yeah, we saw Arlen as competent. And going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the episode of not seeing things through rose tinted nostalgia glasses of Dunk, like
right.
he was as good of a swordsman as we've seen. Granted, he was
Yeah,
probably not going up against the best, but still.
and he seems like he would have, and like we also have heard this before. Baylor said that oh yeah, we're talking about Arlen's origin story and why we
Yeah.
want it. So like, yeah, like I feel like where did he get the sword? Where did
Uh-huh.
he learn how to do everything? Was it like on the job, or did he like have a patron at some point? And then like, yeah, at some point he breaks 4 lances, not 7, against Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we've kind of thought of him as somebody who just with an overblown reputation. But seeing the goods, it really does make me extremely interested in the Baylor origin story. So maybe we'll get like a graphic novel or something, or like I don't know. I would
Yeah.
also be fine with like a Eugene Levy celebrity travel show.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and then like do you have anybody else for like most valuable parenting? Was there any other
That's
parenting
really
that you
what I
thought was
got.
particularly good? That's kind of what I got too. And then so next, did you learn anything? So in terms of our like tournament etiquette, our tourniquet, were there any rules that you thought that you pulled from this episode that you thought would be useful in future tournament festival
Helmet choice is
occasions?
important. You need something that's not going to obscure your vision, but also is going to keep your brains in.
Helmet choice is important. Vision out, brains in.
Yeah.
Just like people could remember that. Oh, that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Speak up if you are not really dead.
Yes. And if you yield, because maybe if you yield a little more quickly and loudly, your uncle will live.
Hmm. 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 Don't be tall.
Don't be tall. Maybe don't get involved in a trial by 7 to begin with.
I thought it was kind of a fun subversion of Lionel's or a little reverse of Lionel's, like, be tall at the be like you got one thing to do that thing. Which again, not
Yep.
wrong. Great advice. Unfortunately, when you are tall and when you do lean into your identity, Ridley, that does usually mean that your identity is going to make you
Yeah.
easy to identify. And in Doug's case, he really does just take a pounding because he's tall and
Yep.
he's easy to spot and hit.
Yes. And is the target.
It is quite literally the target. So that was fun. And yeah, I who do you think? Do you have anybody for our Miss Congeniality, our Queen of Love and Beauty award this week?
Whoever the page was that gave the opening ceremonies and was just sitting there waiting to blow the horn. Like
Got one job.
A plus, no notes. Like
Yeah.
you know that he woke up at like 3 a.m. and just rehearsed that over and over and over again.
Oh man, until one of the other horn blowers like put a knife to his throat and realized it's sleeping time.
Yeah,
Stop sleep. We're sleeping.
yeah.
I
I don't know why I think he's a Beesbury, but I think he's a Beesbury.
It's Beesbury energy for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. Well dressed, kind of slight. Good in yellow.
yeah,
I love Beesburys are also easy to spot.
yeah.
So
Beesburys and Thornsburys are cut from the same cloth.
oh, you're right. You're right. Mike's,
Tim Curry is a Beesbury. I will take no questions.
ooh, protect Tim Curry at all costs,
Yeah.
like all Beesburys, with varying rates of success. My miscongeniality, which was just in my head. Honestly, I'm gonna give it to Gwen Ashford.
Yeah.
She's not had a great weekend, and this was like her entire birthday party. Like it was supposed to be about her, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
right now. It's really not. Like she's like this was supposed to be about her. It's her birthday,
I
and
have
it's
a
like,
friend who turned 21 on 9/11.
see, yeah, it's that energy.
Same energy.
It's that, yeah. Same. Gwen says that. Gwen is like, it was just like
Yeah.
9/11, except
Yeah.
I was the Pentagon, and
A second plane has flown into a second plane has flown into Baylor Breakspear. This has been the last Got Thrones. It's been good speaking to you.
no man, we're allowed.
Can I make the best segue ever?
Yes, please.
Is this time for conspiracy theories?
It is time for conspiracy theories. We had a couple of like going into this that
Mm-hmm.
Red is a faceless man. Red appears, by the way, in the audience, and she's cheering because she's a real one. Ireland is not that big, which I don't want to know.
Now,
Uh,
yeah. Well, now that he's gone, that we know he's been to Vastothrak, yeah, yeah,
yes, I
he
think,
is.
yeah.
They wouldn't have
So
let him in otherwise.
I really think that had something to do with it. I really think it did. We
What
had
does that
one
say about
more,
Jorah?
a wasted opportunity. That's what that says. Needed a woman
uh,
his age. His age.
his age. Jorah is definitely in the Epstein files.
Oh my God. He's like, I didn't go to the island. I just needed him for financial advice. He was
Yeah.
innocent. They found him innocent. The fact that one that we talked about last episode, but we didn't actually put in, which I wanted to, was that Raymond has orchestrated this entire thing to take down the Targaryens. And I'm not.
Playing the
I
long
feel like
game.
he would be into that. I don't know that it's true, but like Raymond
Yeah.
is anti-Targaryen and orchestrated this whole thing. Like he could have
Yep.
absolutely alerted Arion or like saw that Stefan would have like run to Arion and done that, or he could have alerted like Arion that the dragon, that the puppet show was about
Mm-hmm.
dragons, and just watch, because
Yep.
maybe he knew
I,
who Egg was.
yeah. I'll take it. I like it.
I mean,
I'm
yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna say that everything, literally everything we saw, was to lead up to Darren's prophecy of the dragon being felled on top of Dunk, which is Baelor. So the fact that there was um a drunk Sir Arlen present where and when he needed to be was all to get Dunk in place so that we could have Robert's rebellion, so that we could have Jon Snow be the prince that was promised and take down the Night King
With the help of Daenerys Targaryen, who was able to raise her
with the help of
dragons.
yes, with the help of Daenerys Targaryen and Arya actually taking down the
Fair.
Night
Actually, that's a
King
good point.
for
But
some
yeah, that's
reason.
it's that. So like one of the bigger conspiracy theories, which isn't really a theory so much as like a narrative through line, is that Aegon the Conqueror was told by the Starks, I want to say, or like some people like when he goes to the north and has a meeting with the Starks, we get the idea, and then he has visions that of the Night King and of the Great Night, and that they have to they and there's a prophecy and all. I'm not going to go into details. You can find the wiki, but that there's a prophecy that Aegon the Conqueror is aware of, and I believe his sisters as well, that the Targaryen, like there's a song of ice and fire, and at some point they're going to have to go and put down the ice again with their fire, and that it's going to be a Targaryen leading that, or some, or like they have to stop it. They have
Hmm.
to make sure that this doesn't happen. And we hear this in House of the Dragon, as explained to Rhaenyra. Nobody else knows, which makes it extremely inconvenient and obvious. Which is just like I don't know. It made me think of like us putting our nuclear waste someplace, being like in 20,000 years it'll be fine, and like
Yep.
good, yeah, so good luck. And it's not easy to pass down a prophecy about magical night kings and shit in a practical no dragons age.
Yeah.
So the fact, but it is, there's also conspiracy theory that Blood Raven, who does come into play at some point kind of in the books, and so the generations are a little squishy, Blood Raven manages to eliminate or help eliminate or push events in the direction that eliminate every single king before Aegon the
Before
fifth,
Aegon.
the and who becomes
Before
Aegon
Aegon
the
the Unlikely.
Unlikely. Yeah, and Aegon the, and to be fair, say what you will about Blood Raven was also a very pragmatic guy in a lot of ways, even though
Hmm.
he's a little, not a very nice person. He knew, you get the sense that like there was prophecy here, but also practically Egg being raised by Dunk kind of gives the realm a ruler who has the gift of Baelor a little bit, who can see things in a measured and grounded way and is not centering his ruling on Targaryen supremacy. He is
Right.
centering it on what is good for the realm. And
Which is why he gets overthrown. Well, why he gets murdered.
yeah, essentially. Wait, Baelor?
Oh, sorry. No, I was thinking Aegon. Sorry.
Egg,
Yeah.
he gets murdered?
Yeah, at Summerhall.
I thought that he wanted to
Oh
get
no, that's
the,
no. He dies at Summerhall, doesn't he?
but I thought that was because he thought he figured out how to use wildfire to to make the dragons hatch.
Oh,
Hold on,
yeah,
guys, we're
you're right.
checking.
Yes. Okay, and I'm quickly running out of time.
We're almost done.
Yep, you're right. You're right. It was that he wanted to birth the dragons, but to bring down the rebellions against him.
There was still, oh man, I want to know less about his realm. But we see, so Egg being raised by Dunk is, you get the sense, kind of results in Egg being being able to be a ruler like Baylor. But just in looking into what Egg eventually becomes, Johnny, like, because what happens to Egg at the end of it? Or like, because Egg does turn into, because Egg turns into like a pretty decent ruler, right? Like we do see him kind of grow up with like
Yeah,
Dunk's influence prevails.
yeah. He turns into what we would expect Baylor to be, and so the nobility hate him because he is fighting for the small folk, and there are rebellions, and so he thinks he needs dragons to turn them down, and that's where the tragedy of Summerfall happens when he's playing with wildfire.
Yeah, which is a sort of a oof, best laid intentions, best laid plans, all good
Yeah.
intentions, but also important to call back. A lot of things have changed. There have been changes in the books in this adaptation, and George has been, I think, in an effort to give the finger to HBO, very clear about how we cannot expect everything that happens in the books or the Targaryens or Fire and Blood to happen on the shows. So sorry if we bummed you out a little bit on Egg's feature, but his story before
Yeah.
that is
Well, it's our
so
penultimate
much more interesting.
episode, so we have to end it on a downer.
It's the law. It's the
Yeah.
law. But if you want to feel better, you should read the next two novellas because they're so good
Yeah.
and they're so fun. And I'm so excited to watch the shows. And Johnny is right. That does tie up this episode about In the Name of the Mother.
Yeah.
An incredible piece of work. I'm so delighted that yay.
Yep. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah. This has been, I'm excited to, and I'm really, really excited to see what happens next week. And then, gentle
Yeah.
reminder, folks, we are still working on a new show. We haven't narrowed down to like a couple of different shows that we will do next,
Mm-hmm.
but we will have an answer for you next week, or well, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will hear us very shortly discussing what's next on our docket, as well, especially as well as responding to the season finale of A Night with Seven
Yes.
Kingdoms, which is tomorrow. But yeah, in the meantime, see us on the internet at Got Thrones on Instagram, Got underscore Thrones on TikTok, and on YouTube at Got Thrones Podcast. We're obviously wherever you get your podcasts. You can get us there. And Johnny, anything
Yeah.
else before we head out?
We will see you on the morrow, which is the name of the next episode.
What a transition! Look at
Yeah.
this man, everyone.
All right. All right. Bye, folks.
Bye.